All right.
So I was really intrigued with you and your mother, the way you've been doing the Music Mondays. And it's
Yeah.
just such a wonderful thing to offer to people. I mean,
Oh,
it's just wonderful to listen to it.
well, thank you. Yeah, that it's I appreciate that. And it's was kind of a selfish thing, really. I need more music in my life, and that was a good way to make sure that it happened a little bit regularly and gets us together singing together, and yeah, hopefully lights up somebody's day a little bit or week a little bit too, and makes them think maybe about what lights them up and what small ways they might bring those things into their own life a little bit.
Exactly. Do you feel that sometimes music can work beyond the consciousness? It's just like when I'm listening to music, I just love it so much that I get lost in it. And
Mm.
in a crappy mood to start with, it brings me out of that crappy mood without me having to, quote unquote, do anything other than
Oh,
music.
yeah. Yeah, so true. I completely get lost in music. And I'm actually the kind of person that to me, for me, music is such an experience, and it does kind of consume me, maybe sounds more negative than I mean, but absorbs me, that I can't do background music very, very well. Maybe like if I'm cooking and listening to music, but if there's conversation and a really good song, I get really kind of like, oh, one or the other. Just because it is such it's medicine for me. Like I talk about it, it really transports me to a different place. Like you say, if you're starting out grumpy or feeling crummy, often, a meaningful piece of music to me will change that. It's pretty amazing, actually.
It is. It is. My background, I don't know if many people know this, but my degree is in music education.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
Professionally and everything. And so to me, it was just such a natural step to use my violin to help people, outside of the orchestra situation, outside
Uh-huh.
of the formal performance situation.
Oh, wow. Neat. Well, yeah. So before we get too far in, maybe could you introduce yourself to folks a little, like maybe, just who you are and where you are in the world, and a little more about what you do, and yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
My name is Janet Roper, and I am a modern shaman, an animal communicator, and educator. And I am currently in Missoula, Montana. And I've been in Missoula for 3 years. I was born, bred, and raised in the Midwest, and I never thought I'd leave there. And
Mm.
the first time I crossed the Continental Divide, it was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
Like, there are like really big mountains, and I'm a flatlander. And I
Yeah.
still find it hard to drive here. But I really enjoy it very much here. And I find that the land helps me with the work that I do with the animals and the work that I'm starting to do with the land itself. And of
Mhm.
course, with people. Um, what else, Jenny? What else can I tell you?
Well, maybe could you elaborate for folks kind of about what you do with, you talked about being a modern shaman and an animal communicator, educator. Maybe just, I think a lot of folks aren't too familiar with what that is and what that means and what that looks like. If you wouldn't mind maybe
Absolutely.
painting us a picture.
Absolutely. So I wear many hats, and the one that I have worn the longest is educator, because I've been a music teacher. I've taught in the public schools. I've taught music privately. So it was just a natural progression in my life. I'm an educator, and then it was like working with animals,
Hmm.
and that just seemed to be a natural growth of being an educator. So I started using the education in the animal communication. And if you're not familiar with animal communication, think of Dr. Doolittle. Doolittle talking to the animals. That's kind of sort of what I do.
Uh-huh.
It's on a deeper level than that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's homework involved for the human, because there's always the component of the relationship is between the animal and their human.
Mm-hmm.
I walk along beside them and I help and I guide, but I don't take over and I don't do any of the steering. I just accompany.
Wow.
And so from that, talking to animals, and that's something I've done all my life. And I thought everybody did it. And then the parents told me that, okay, the neighbors are going to think you're crazy if you talk to this person. Don't tell the neighbors. So it kind of got smushed down in me and everything. But then later in life, it started to come out. And then it was very much a natural progression to go from working with the animals and their humans to go into a 2-year intensive study to become a modern shaman.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really interesting is that shamanism is a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way of life, what I'm actually doing is I'm connecting on a deeper level with the animals, with the plants, with the water, with the sky, with the air, with the land that is in my area. Also with the humans, because you can't connect to those other things without connecting to humans.
Right.
World that we live in. So that's very important too. So as a modern shaman, I don't do any of the practices that, maybe a South American shaman would do, or someone from the North, or someone, from an indigenous tribe. As a modern shaman, my feet are on the ground here in Missoula, and my practice is here in Missoula, and it's working with the land and the animals and the people here in Missoula.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anybody's got any questions, just feel free to ask.
Okay. Yeah, that's neat. It sounds like it's really rooted in, that idea of a sense of place.
Yes.
And being connected to your place in the world, and your geography and your landscape and your, bioregion, and the people and the plants and the critters that are specifically there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And Jenny, I had never been this far west until I moved out here. And as soon as I crossed that line and got into Montana, I had this feeling I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
There was just this relief of I'm home. And that's the way it feels.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy for you. You found that place.
Yeah.
That's neat. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about, I had seen the article about the story you told about playing your fiddle for a racehorse, or an ex-racehorse, and that experience. And I'd be curious if you would maybe briefly share that story so people know what we're talking about. And then also, just kind of what I'm going to throw a lot of questions at you here at once, but like what music wellness in general looks like, feels like, what it is to you. And then, how that works with the critters that you're working with. That's really fascinating to me.
Okay. The story that Jenny is talking about is that I used to have a horse. He passed away after I moved here to Montana. He was still in Minnesota. And I would go out to the barn in the evenings, and I would play my violin for him. And because I'm like the worst horseback rider on the face of the earth, it's like, okay, it's like I really want to be like Dale Evans, but it's just not working for me. I'm a horrible rider. And so the way that I connected with my horse was through music and through our own being, with each other, our togetherness, and through groundwork. So, yes, I had a saddle, yes, I've got a bridle and all that good stuff, but did I ride him? Very seldom. And when I did, he would always look at me and they're like, just, sit there, Janet, I'll do all the work. You just go for the ride. But anyway, and he loved the violin. I would take the violin out there and I would play in front of his stall, and his nose was always on the violin, touching it, taking in the vibrations.
Oh.
And what was really fascinating is I also have drums, and I would take the drums out there, and he did not like them. And part of it, I think, was the smell, but also the sound. I mean, the smell, you've got the, one of the drums is made from elk, and the other one is made from buffalo. And he was not familiar with those smells. And it just, he did not like those. But the violin, he loved. He would listen for hours. And as I would play to him, Shiloh, in front of his stall, the other horses would stick their heads out of the stall. And I'd look down the hallway, and you just see all these horses going back and forth like this. It was very relaxing to them. So one night, I had my fiddle out there, and I let Shiloh out into the pasture so he could be with his girlfriends. And there was a racehorse that was there who had just been adopted by a person, luckily, who knows about racehorses and how to work with them when they're off the track. But this racehorse was really hot, meaning that he was running around in that pasture like crazy. And you could just tell that, I always call it, it's like they lose their brain. They're not grounded in their mind. They're just working, they're just reacting to the stimulus that is going on. So I'm going, well, I wonder what would happen if I play with my music for the racehorse. So, I mean, he was a big horse and he was young and he was powerful. So I'm standing way back from the fence. And I would play the music, and he would start literally running and stampeding and shaking his head and rearing and bucking and everything. And then when I stopped playing, he would stop and he would look around for it. Where's what happened? You know, I'm supposed to be hearing this, or I'm supposed to be experiencing this. And so we did this game for about an hour where I would play, he would run and buck, I would stop, he would look around for it, I'd move closer. Well, by the end of the hour, he was not running and bucking when I was playing the music. He was running and bucking and losing his mind whenever I wasn't playing.
Huh.
And I was not, you know, next to the fence, but I would say I was maybe 3 or 4 feet away from the fence. And he would, when I stopped playing and he would do that running around looking for the music, he would always come back to where I was. He would stop and then I'd play. So it was just incredible to witness how the music was calming the horse down. I don't even remember what I was playing. I don't think it was classical. I think it was, frankly, I don't remember. You know, probably folk music, something like that.
Neat.
But just to see the way that he would react. So when I'm working with the animals, currently I don't use music like I used to. I used to use it a more on a schedule. But now it's like, trying to think the best way to explain this. Now, instead of like pulling out my violin or playing the piano or with a musical instrument, I can think the music, I can think the sounds, and I think it's the vibrations that connect from me to the animal when I'm working with them. So it's fascinating to watch how that happens.
Yeah.
The force that we're not, that is around us that we're not aware of.
That's interesting. I loved what you said about, you know, him being hot and being in his brain or being out of his brain. I forget how you said that. And the music being centering and calming. And I think that's so true for all of us critters, including us human critters. It makes me think actually at a nursing facility I worked at for a time, they have a music and memory program for not just Alzheimer's, but, you know, dementia people of all stripes. And it's kind of amazing to watch the transformation that happens. You know, a person who's so out of sorts and frustrated, and then, you know, the music is playing and maybe they're dancing or singing along or just listening, and it's just, they're suddenly smiling ear to ear, they're calm and peaceful. You know, there's different reactions, but it's always magical to me, the effect that it has on us.
It is. And I used to do what I called music wellness with people. And I would go into those situations, you know, as a performer, and I would play. And it was really funny because I had named my violin Lucy. And so I would always introduce myself. I'm Janet, and this is Lucy. The people could not remember me, but they would say, "How's Lucy?"
That's great.
Did you bring Lucy today? Yeah, Lucy's here. Is Lucy going to sing for us? Yeah, Lucy's going to sing for you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was really, I really much enjoyed doing it.
Neat. So can you talk a little more about that, about your music wellness? You went to play in nursing homes, is that right?
That's right. And I did it in a lot of the memory care homes. And I would always play the songs that they were familiar with. So it was like, "Oh, Danny Boy," songs from the 30s, from the 40s, that they would know, folk songs that they could sing along with. And I would take requests. And what I found really amazing was that if somebody requested, let's say, "Oh, Danny Boy," then the next request was for "Oh, Danny Boy." Then the next request was for "Oh, Danny Boy." So I might be playing it, you know, 6 or 7 times or more during that half-hour session. But it was like, it was beyond what I could have created for the people, because that song, whether it was "Oh, Danny Boy" or something else, it was in charge and it helped those people for that period of time. It was incredible to witness. I remember watching one woman She was in a wheelchair, and I had been playing at this facility for months, and she was always bent over, and she never talked. And so I'm in there once a month, and so I played numerous times. And one day when I was there playing, she sat up and she started singing, and it was just incredible to watch that happen.
It really brings us to life in, metaphorically and literally sometimes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And as I said earlier, I think music works beyond what we are conscious of it doing. It's magical, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to downplay it by any stretch of the imagination, but it is just when you are sitting in the presence of music, whatever music speaks to you, it works its magic on you.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I mean, this is a little off our topic, but kind of related. I think for some reason that was making me think about research I've seen about the effect of music on plants, and even plants. And I couldn't tell you. I couldn't remember how they were measuring this, but they had some kind of way to measure it. The response that plants had to music and to different kinds of music. Like you said, we each have our own, something that resonates with us more, and I think that's true throughout the natural world, probably. And there's a quote, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something about music being the universal language. And yeah, that's neat.
Exactly, exactly. There is a YouTube video. I think it's Damahur,
Mm-hmm.
Damahur. And what they do is that they actually have music that they've made with the plants. They've hooked them up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
own natural vibrations is a musical tone.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, like music of Bach or Brahms or Mendelssohn, whoever fit that plant's natural music, they put that in as a background, and it's phenomenal to listen to that.
That's neat. I've heard of that. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know when I used to do rescue through with animal communication at the Humane Societies back in the Minneapolis area, that I would go in there, and there were the dogs, or they would, because they had their volunteers there, and a lot of the volunteers were young. They had this rock music going, and it was driving the dogs crazy, just absolutely crazy. And so when
Mm-hmm.
they would change the music to a softer type of music, teenagers may not have been happy, happier, and behaving so much better.
Yeah. Well, and teenagers might have been happier than they realized, even.
They wouldn't.
Maybe. Um, so, I'm trying to remember what I was going to ask you that made me think of something. I guess I'm curious to know more about, well, several things, but how about starting with when you're working with an animal and their person, um, you talked about working alongside them. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about, I mean, wellness in general, but also music wellness, in that kind of relationship, and how the music animal person wellness relationship kind of works, if you will.
The way that I see it is, my role is as a spokesperson for the animal. So while the relationship is between the person and their animal, my connection, so to speak, is stronger with the animal, because that's the person that, excuse me, that's the sentient being that I'm speaking for,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm interpreting for. So what I have found is that with the music, when I start doing that, thinking it in my head, music that's calming down the animal, it's like it works in a triangle. Well, I'm consciously sending it to the animal. Okay, it must in some way be boomeranging off the animal, or maybe off of me, and going to that person,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody is calmer. Everybody is more relaxed. Everybody is able to take in a breath,
Mm-hmm.
and not just that hyperventilating kind of breath, like if you're nervous about something, but that just that kind of deep breath.
Yeah.
So it's I just assumed, and I never thought about this before, that it was going between the animal and they were sharing it with the person. I need to observe that more carefully next time I do it.
That's interesting. I think that kind of speaks to how connected we all are. not just we as humans, but we as humans and animals, we as humans and animals and nature. And not just connected. I mean, we are all one and the same. I'm getting pretty philosophical here, but I think that's great, because that's something I talk about a lot, or try to talk about a lot with folks, is, we kind of live in this modern, fast-paced, stressful world. And I see a lot of folks suffering from kind of a modern malaise, if you will, overworked, overstressed, overtired, kind of scattered in every direction, and not sure where to start to kind of get a handle on it all. And I really deeply believe that connection is the cure, whether it's slowing down and savoring and connecting with ourselves, or connecting with loved ones and community, but also animals and nature and the seasons and food, and where our food comes from, and how that connects us to culture and tradition and all that good stuff. So that's really, really interesting, that that connection there, and that relationship you're talking about.
It is. And I'm very grateful that we've connected through the workshop that you gave once,
Yeah.
because since then I've become much more conscious of everything, and trying new recipes and new combinations and everything. But I also watched it's on Netflix, I think, either Netflix or Amazon, and it's called Ugly Delicious.
Huh.
Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, but I'm gonna have to look that up.
To look
Ugly Delicious.
Ugly Delicious, yeah. Either Netflix or Amazon. And it's a chef, world-known chef, and he's talking about the foods and the cultures, and how some of the foods are appropriated, and how
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be recognized from what culture it is and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that totally fascinating. I never thought I'd watch a food show, and I am watching it and enjoying it very much and learning from it.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff, and important. Yeah, it's so important, food sovereignty work. I know there's quite a movement within the tribes, and around food sovereignty and traditional cultural foods and traditional ecological knowledge and all that good stuff. Some really amazing stuff happening out there. I was just actually watching a video, geeking out a little bit before we got on here, an indigenous chef, and he just had a little video he had made of I can't remember the traditional name, but it was elk soup, and but it was like fiddleheads and yucca root and elderberries and all of this seasonal stuff that's here, in, well, a lot of places here, but probably North America here in particular. Yeah, and just kind of comes back around to that sense of place we kind of started talking about, being rooted where you are, and the season that you're in, and the people or the critters that you're with. And it's, yeah, so important, connecting to those things.
Well, and the way I look at it as a modern shaman is that, we're all connected, just exactly as what you were saying, and that the plants, the animals, the stones, the water that's around us, those are our allies.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to learn how to create relationship with them, right relationship with them, which is not just saying that, oh, I found this feather, and
Mm-hmm.
Cardinal has a message for me. It's way much more than that, and how we're all connected, and how we're all related, and how we can all help each other, even the fiddleheads.
Mm-hmm.
You said that word, and I just couldn't help but smile, because it's like fiddleheads.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, and yeah, well, I was gonna think about fiddlehead ferns, and how we kind of all have our own music that's maybe getting a little more metaphorical than literal, but or story maybe is a traditional word for it, story or song.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think
So,
whatever slows us down and gets us out of that mind frame, I've got to do this. I call it monkey mind.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So how about, if you don't mind me asking, for you personally, what does, I always like to ask people that I'm talking to about your own perspective on what is health, what is wellness. I think we talked in that workshop about, there's kind of this cultural definition of what healthy is, that a lot of people feel like that's how we should be. That's what we should be striving for. And it's, white, thin, able-bodied, et cetera, et cetera. And the importance of people kind of creating and reconnecting with their own vision of what being healthy is for them within the reality of like your own situation, your own finances, your own abilities, all that. So if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit, kind of what that looks like for you, what that means for you, and maybe even how the work with animals and their people kind of fits into all of that.
Okay. Okay. I think for me, what it is becoming more of, and I would have answered this question definitely different before the workshop, 6 months ago, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what it is for me is becoming in alignment and in a place of being an ally to myself.
Mm. Oh, I
So
like that.
while I don't like to cook, okay, anybody who knows me knows that I just do not like to cook.
That's okay. You're not alone.
I know, I'm in pretty good company. But the drawback to that is I'll just go out to the restaurant and, get whatever. And, yeah, it's easy. And yeah, it takes care of the need for right now. But my relationship with my body with her is not right now. It's extended,
Mm-hmm.
to what it was, what it currently is, what I'm creating it into, what we're creating it into, excuse me, and what it will be in the future. And so I see the future me as being different than where I am now. And to me, it comes down again to that ally, being an ally with my body, listening to her, to what she needs, what she wants, and then not overriding by going, oh yeah, but it'd be so much easier to, call in for a pizza or something.
Mm-hmm.
So in doing that, what I'm actually learning is changing my habits, becoming more conscious of what I'm doing, writing things down. For me personally, write it down. I need to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much as, yes, I do have a plan, but it's also how I'm going to go into that plan, the steps to take me into that plan. Because I'm notorious for writing down a plan and going, oh yeah, I'll remember it, I'll do it. And then I get hungry and it's like, oh, hello, there's the phone, so let's call.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also realizing that there is time for that. That when I say I don't have time, that's an excuse. And so for me to realize, yes, there actually is time. I realize that I'm going to be saying no to something else so that I can take care of myself. But, there's a pretty darn good chance that I'm saying no to playing on Facebook.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's that sense of ally.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's a wonderful way. I haven't heard it put yet. I like that a lot, being an ally to ourselves.
Thank you.
Because I think a lot of times we almost have this adversarial relationship or parental relationship with ourselves, where it's like we have this idea of a specific way or diet or something that we're trying to be or stick to and control, instead of, I like that allyship idea where you're, and that self-awareness, slowing down and having that self-awareness. And I really loved what you said too about mosquito, about, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it made me think of a book called The Power of a Positive No, I think is the name of it. And the idea is finding the yes behind your no. So saying no, empowering yourself to say no by really getting to that deeper why you need to say no. Like, what are you protecting? What is saying no protecting that you're saying yes to?
Yes.
That's, yeah, it's powerful stuff.
Add that to my to be read list, which is quite long, I might add.
Yeah, same here. Well, Dee, do you have anything else that any other thoughts on any of this, or anything else you want to say or share before we kind of wrap up?
I would just say, I had to think about that one, that it's all about relationship. Look at what your relationship is, and sometimes the easiest way to look at what your relationship is, and when I say look, everybody thinks I mean the eyes, but I should say experience the relationship, is to just sit for a few minutes and, for instance, listen. If you're outside, what am I hearing right now? What are 5 or 6 sounds that I'm hearing right
Mm-hmm.
now?
Mm-hmm.
What are 5 or 6 smells that I'm experiencing right now? And when I find that I go from that back door kind of thinking, so to speak, it gets me out of my mind into my
Mm.
senses and helps me slow down.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea, getting kind of back into our senses in order to facilitate that slowing down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an Aquarius and my mind is always going. You know, it's just like, and I need to know. And it's not, I want to know. It's like, I need to know. And it's just part of my makeup. So
Mhm.
part of it that I'm rewiring for myself is, okay, you need to know it, Janet, but you don't need to Google it to know it. There are other ways to know
Other ways of knowing.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a question for
Yeah,
you.
sure.
'Cause we talked about sharing this, and I would love to share this.
Hmm.
Would you be willing to talk about yourself and who you are and everything? What you
Sure. Sure. Well, I'm Jenny Mahan. I am a registered nurse and a health and wellness coach. I focus on lifestyle medicine. So basically, non pharmacological lifestyle changes or maintenance that helps us be healthier, feel better, have more energy, prevent, manage, or even sometimes reverse chronic diseases, that kind of thing. Um, and like we've talked about a little bit, I'm very focused on connection, whether it's with yourself, with community, with nature, with the food that you eat and how we eat together, um, and all those kinds of things is kind of my jam. um, yeah, and music. We have this. I own a little business I started called Pine Creek Wellness, and we kind of decided to have this little chat, Janet and I, because I started a little thing called Music Mondays, and music has been medicine for me. It's been an important part of my well-being my entire life. And but life got busy, and I was in nursing school. I was single parenting for a while. My husband and I have just sort of finished building a house. There's been a lot going on, and so a lot of things like music have gotten a little set aside, and I really needed a mindful way to bring some of that back in and make sure it actually happened, because it's so easy to be in that busy go 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 state and not just keep setting those things aside kind of indefinitely. Yeah, so we started Music Mondays. My mom and I get on a Facebook Live video and do a little song, and it just forces us in a good way to break out our instruments and to sing together, and also share it with the world a little, and maybe inspire somebody else to at least enjoy some music, or to think about bringing that into their own life. Um, but yeah, I'm a Jill of all trades. I'm also a soap maker, and um, we raise chickens, and I have an Angora house bunny, and raising a 14-year-old son, and
You got
I
a lot.
forget. Yeah, we have enough things going on. So that's a little about me. Thank you for asking.
My
Yeah.
pleasure. And I want to tell you, I don't know if I had told you this before, but I had mentioned that we met at that workshop, at that garden party. And I was planning on going to the other breakout group, which was on marketing or something,
Uh-huh.
something that was really practical. And
Mm-hmm.
my mouse slipped and I clicked on your group instead. And I'm so glad I did. It was just so fortuitous.
Oh, that's so funny how things work out sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Well, I'm glad your mouse slipped, because I'm so happy and honored to know you and get to know you a little better. And I hope we keep connecting
I think so. And I
as
got
time
you.
goes on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank
Well,
you for having me here. This has just been so much fun.
yeah, it really has. I feel like we've kind of just scratched the surface, but we can do it again sometime, maybe.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Janet.
You bet. Have a great day, okay?